Pawan sir, you can start.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Central Academy for Police Training, I take this opportunity to welcome all the participants of this program today. Uh, the Central Academy for Police Training has been created to train the deputy SPs of all the states, the directly recruited deputy SPs of all the state, and looking at the requirement of the other two foundations of the criminal justice administration, that is prosecution and the jail department, which do not have any institutional mechanism of training. Um, CAPT has taken this onus, and we train officials of the prosecution department and jail department of all the states of the country. It is pertinent to note that prosecution, jail, police are all state subjects, and this is a unique proposition, unique institution which trains the uh, officials of the criminal justice administration from all uh, states. We have started this program called online lecture series for the alumni of the CAPT, and every month on one particular day, as has been announced by the United Nations, we organize a lecture series wherein we invite an eminent speaker to speak on that subject. So today on World Suicide Prevention Day, we have taken this opportunity and have invited Madam Vibhushan Sadhguruji, who shall be in conversation with the officials of one major CAPF, that is CRPF, one of the major police forces of the country, UP Police. Then we have the jail department from Tamil Nadu. I see sir here. We have Director of Prosecution of Telangana. And we have also the Inspector General of Prisons of Bihar, who would be in conversation with Sadhguru. And the whole program would be moderated by Shri Balaji Srivastava, Director General, Bureau of Police Research and Development, under the aegis of whom CAPT functions. They shall be joining in due course of time. Meanwhile, for an introduction of CAPT, I would request to play a small clipping, a small 3-minute movie about the Central Academy for Police Training.
Questions we have, no?
The Central Academy for Police Training is a Union Cabinet approved Rs 281 crores project of the Ministry of Home Affairs under the aegis of Bureau of Police Research and Development, mandated to train the directly recruited deputy superintendents of the state and the police trainees. With a humble beginning from rented office space in 2012, the academy shifted to prefabricated huts in 2014 to its new premise in 2018. The 400-acre barren land given by MP government free of cost has been since converted into a green and clean campus with initiatives such as paperless office, water harvesting, composting and use of solar energy. The academy has state-of-the-art infrastructure with audio-visual enabled 18 smart classrooms, 240-seater auditorium, adequate number of office for the staff, 2 computer labs, full-fledged forensic science lab block, library with audio-visual lab, armory, sports complex, model police station, 4 different hostels with 297 single bedrooms, and 132 quarters for its 244 staff. The academy has a fiber optic backbone to connect all the buildings for data, telephones and CCTV. The academy has 4 national centers for traffic technologies, prosecution, prison administration and drug law enforcement. Besides the basic school, the academy organized 4 national level conferences every year, starting from just 3 courses in the year of its inception and 115 trainees. The Academy has grown leaps and bounds to have trained more than 8,500 trainees in 99 courses in the year 2020-2021. The Academy is a pioneer institution of the Ministry of External Affairs ITEC program and trains police officers of friendly countries. The Academy also partners with the Department of Homeland Security to train police officers under the Terrorism Assistance Program. The Academy has also trained the newly recruited DSPs and prosecution officers of the Madhya Pradesh government. The ethos of the Academy is the judicious use of the environment, sustainable development, and doing things by own hands. Each staff member of the Academy does multitasking, organizing the courses, teaching, upkeep and maintenance of infrastructure, liaison with state, public outreach program, running a nursery school, community participation in cultural and religious festivals, regular interaction of all the staff in the monthly Sainik Sammelans, and numerous other activities. The Academy has been awarded with 2 ISO certificates for office and environment management. The Academy has also been awarded with the Union Home Minister's Trophy for Best Police Training Institution for the year 2019-2020. We welcome you all at Central Academy for Police Training, your own academy.
Thank you so much. The chief guest of today's program is Padam Vibhushan Sadhguru ji, who actually requires no introduction to not only the Indians or the Indian diaspora, but also foreigners. I take this opportunity to introduce him to everyone through a small video.
Half hour, you're going to meet a man who has a devoted following across India and indeed around the world. While yoga and meditation are at the core of his teachings to promote individual growth, the work of the foundation covers conservation, education and health. And you'll find him astonishingly pragmatic on a range of very modern-day problems. Let's meet Sadhguru.
For the very first time in the history of humanity, we have the necessary resource, we have the necessary capability, we have the necessary technology to address every human problem on the planet. Even 25 years ago, we couldn't have dreamt of it. But the only thing that is missing is consciousness.
Today, the spotlight is on a project called Green Hands in India.
We started a mass campaign and 6 years I spent planting trees in people's heads. That's the most difficult terrain, believe me. And now in the last 6 years, we've been transplanting it, and that's happening much more easily.
Action for Rural Rejuvenation is mainly aimed at rejuvenating the human spirit.
This is an incredible movement that is started in Tamil Nadu. We want to see that this happens to the whole country. The idea is not necessarily about developing competitive sport, but the important thing is to bring the spirit of sport and revitalizing rural societies.
ईशा आउटरीच को वर्ष 2018 के लिए राष्ट्रीय खेल प्रोत्साहन पुरस्कार से सम्मानित किया जाता है। सद्गुरु जगदीश वासुदेव, संस्थापक ईशा आउटरीच।
English and computer skills are very essential to make these children come out of the hopeless economic and social pit they are in.
If you could first tell our viewers, what is the idea behind it? Initiative, insight, which is more specific towards entrepreneurs.
Whatever the nature of your business, ultimately, it is all about human well-being.
Isha Foundation, a non-religious, non-profit public service organisation headquartered in southern India.
Sadhguru has established Isha Institute of Inner Sciences in North America as a space for inner transformation and complete well-being. Surrounded by the serene forests of the Cumberland Plateau, Isha Institute attracts visitors from around the world for its unique programs and special events.
We've engineered the outside world in so many ways, but we've done nothing about this one.
If you want to know well-being, in is the only way out. This is what I want to teach you too. That is, you can be completely intoxicated without any drug, just on life. This is a shift from wine to divine. How can you love one and hate the other when the same divine exists in all? Spiritual process is not about looking up or looking down, it is about turning inward. See, the only thing that I'm really good at is just this. I can just make the air around me just crackle with energy. Adi Yogi is the source of yoga, the first yogi.
Adi Yogi will inspire many generations to take up yoga. One truly remarkable thing that Sadhguru has done is he has made yogis out of ordinary common people.
We're tracking a mammoth movement, an incredible rally starting from Kanyakumari, reaching up to the Himalayas, with the sole purpose of rejuvenating India's rivers.
Every state is responding. This is concurrence and this is wonderful.
I'm very happy that Sadhguru has taken up this cause. It should also become a people's movement for our own survival, for the survival of our children.
We are also launching another campaign called Kaveri Calling. These 83,000 square kilometers of Kaveri basin, we want to bring it back, at least 1/3 of it, back into some kind of green.
ಪರಿಸರ ರಕ್ಷಣೆಯ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣ ಸಹಕಾರವನ್ನು ನೀಡುತ್ತಿದೆ.
சத்குருஜி அவர்கள் எடுக்கின்ற முயற்சிக்கு என்னுடைய அரசு துணை நிற்கும்.
We are launching a campaign called Youth and Truth in the month of September. Youth and Truth, unplug with Sadhguru, ask whatever you want.
I want to know the truth about ambition.
Technology.
Why do we have to wear a tie or a proper dress code in our placement?
What is the meaning of competition both for individuals and society?
For every one of you, your life is precious, isn't it? This precious life, where are you going to invest it? What is it that will be worthwhile today and worthwhile after 50 years for me to invest myself into? You invest your life into that. This will be a life of fulfillment.
He has a different swag. He's kind of Buddha to us. Sadhguru has become this new friend of youth.
One important thing about Fashion for Peace is shifting back to natural fiber as much as possible. The way we dress is destroying the world. Textile has become the third largest polluter on the planet. The polyfiber, it has entered our bodies, it's entered our water, soil, our food cycle. This is not just about fashion, this is going to make millions of people's lives. You have to describe yourself in one word. Would you consider wildlife as 2 words or 1 word?
It's
President Pranab Mukherjee felicitating his Sadhguru for all his spiritual contribution.
Namaskaram. Namaskaram to all of you.
Pavanji, please unmute.
Namaskaram. Good afternoon. I, Pavan Srivastav, Director, Central Academy for Police Training, extend a very warm welcome to all the panelists on board and all the audience watching the program through YouTube. CAPT is a premium institution in capacity building for the various pillars of criminal justice system. KPT, in collaboration with Isha Yoga Foundation and Blessings of Sadhguru, has attempted to make small beginning to bring about awareness on serious issue common to all the forces in uniform and public in general. For in conversation with Sadhguru today, we have very senior officers representing different government organizations who have volunteered to be a part of this program. We have with us Shri Kuldeep Singh, IPS, Director General, Central Reserve Police Force. He is from the West Bengal cadre of the Indian Police Service of the 1986 batch. We have Shri Mukul Goel, IPS, DGP Uttar Pradesh, who is a 1987 batch officer. We have also Shri Sunil Kumar Singh, IPS, Director General of Police and Director General of Prisons and Correctional Services, Tamil Nadu, who is of the 1988 batch. Shri Mithilesh Mishra, IAS, Inspector General Prison, Bihar. He is the youngest of us all here, 2011 batch. We also have Mrs. G. Vajayanti Panduranga Reddy, Director of Prosecution and Legal Advisor to the DGP and CID Telangana. And we also have with us Shri Balaji Srivastava, IPS, DGB PRD, who will act as moderator for the program. Most revered to us all, Sadhguru needs no introduction. His name has global following, and his take on spiritual issues has guided and motivated one and all across all age groups and life-changing experiences. Like you all, I'll be a silent participant of the program and look forward to guidance from Sadhguru on this issue. I now invite DGBPRD, Shri Balaji Srivastava, to speak and moderate the program for logical end. Thank you so much. DGBPRD, Shri Balaji Srivastava.
Namaskaram, sir. Respected and the most venerable Sadhguru Ji, Padma Bhushan, the panelists this evening, Mr. Kuldeep Singh, DGCRPF, Mr. Mukul Goel, DGP UP, my batchmate Sunil Kumar Singh, DGP Prisons and Correctional Services, Tamil Nadu, Mr. Mithilesh Kumar, IG Prisons, Bihar, and Ms. G. Vijayanti, Director Prosecution, Telangana. Welcome to you all from BPR&D. As you're aware, CIPT is one of our units in the outline segment and is doing a wonderful job. On this occasion of the World Suicide Prevention Day, just a bit of a recall, sir, if you permit. The International Association for Suicide Prevention, which is called the IASP, they initiated the World Suicide Prevention Day in 2003. The aim is to research and collect data on suicidal behavior, determine the various causes and why its signs go unnoticed, and developing sound practices and policies for suicide prevention. Every biennial theme they create, and this time I get for 2021 to 2023, the theme has been creating hope through action. I think I agree with the director CAPT BPR&D, Mr. Pavan Srivastava, when he says that our very respected and very venerable Sadhguru needs no introduction. In fact, I was just thinking how to introduce you, sir. I have not met you in person, but I've heard so much about you. I've heard so much about you. So at least I get the additional advantage this evening when I can actually get virtually connected with you, thanks to this initiative of my CAPT in Bhopal. I was just wondering, therefore, ever since Pavan invited me to moderate this session, as to how do I welcome you? Do I welcome you as a yogi? Do I welcome you as a friend in need, a visionary, humanitarian, prominent spiritual leader?
I'm already here, sir. So it's okay.
So let me complete. I'm speaking from within. So as a renowned author, founder of Isha Foundation, But I can always say this, and I say this from the bottom of my heart, that you are one of the most extraordinary human beings that I have ever heard about, and now talking to you, albeit virtually. Your courage, your passion, your divinity, your perspective on life have had a profound impact on me, and as they do on millions of people who follow you. Your tireless efforts towards physical, mental, and spiritual well-being truly enlightens us. So, therefore, when Pawan thought about this, the immediate thing that we came to mind is if we can get across to Isha Foundation, and more importantly to you, to grace us with this evening with you. As you're aware, it's an online informative talk, which is in the format of an in-conversation, which has been designed to impart deep insight on this subject matter, which is of immense interest to all of us, particularly the CPFs, the CPOs, police, prisons, prosecution offices, and the NGOs. And we are an attached officer. The PPR&D, as you're aware, is an attached office of the Home Ministry. It's like a think tank, and we advise the government on almost every aspect of police working, all the verticals within the police organization and across all police organizations all over the country, pan-India. So can I now invite, a brief on why to create awareness about this thing, about the World Suicide Prevention Day. Thought of sharing some figures with you, sir. The 1 in every 100 deaths worldwide is a result of a suicide. It's not, and the WHO estimates that about approximately 8 lakh people due to suicide, and 80% of them occur in low and middle income countries. More than 1 lakh people commit suicides in India every year. And in 2019, I have the last figure which Pawan shared with me. It's about 1,40,000 suicides were reported in the country during 2019, which is about a 3.4% increase in comparison to 2018. The majority of suicides were reported in Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka. These alone accounting for about 49% of the total suicides. Problems and the causal factors would vary. And police, and where I come in, when I get focused purely on police and the CAPFs, is about 930 personnel, 930, have committed suicide in the last 5 years. So it's a huge, huge issue for us. And as the think tank, as BPR&D, sir, I think I have to get into this act forthwith, and nothing better than the Sadhguru himself, Padma Vibhushan, to guide us. So my first, I would kindly request now DG CRPF, Mr. Kuldeep Singh, to set the ball rolling for us, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
If you can put a single picture who is speaking, I can't make out who is talking.
Pawan, make a single picture of DG CRPF, please.
Thank you.
Yeah. Namaskaram, Sadhguru.
Namaskaram.
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity, Balaji and Pawan, for addressing a very serious issue, which is a serious concern to all of us, especially in the forces. Here, I have been given this post, and I am heading this force from last 6 months. This force is approximately 3.25 lakh strong and working in all theaters, like in Jammu and Kashmir, fighting with the terrorists all the time. Naxals, the left-wing extremism, they are fighting all over the country, especially in Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand and all those places. Then Northeast has got its own challenges. We have been given the internal security responsibility of the country of all kind. Maybe it's Kisan Andolan, maybe it is an election, maybe any kind of issues we are always pressed into. So now, number of times, though in this force I'm heading from last 6 months, but I'm associated with this force from last 4.5 years in different capacity. So we see that number of times our boys are working in such an atmosphere and in such a situation where they are not in a position to get sufficient time to themselves, to rethink about themselves. or to their families, addressing their issues, trying to solve their own personal issues as well as their social concerns, as well as their social and other responsibilities which they need to carry out with their parents, families, and all others. So we try from our side, somehow or the other, to tackle it by counseling them, by trying to give them leave as and when they require, or also keeping an eye on them in what kind of mindset they are in. But I try to see it from a different perspective when Honorable Sadhguru is in front of us, that what drives a person into a mindset of committing suicide, and more so from perspective of force, what should we address that these kind of things are minimized and people are better in their work environment, and they take care of their issues in such a manner that they don't drive themselves into such a situation. Thank you.
Namaskaram. See, maybe there are some specific issues with the armed forces or with the police forces, students, people, different categories of people. But essentially, we need to understand that a human being, or any life for that matter, it is natural for them to value their life. But the values of their life are invested in certain things. Whatever they've invested their life into, it could be family, it could be wealth, it could be money, it could be ideologies, or it could be love affair, it could be different things. Whatever they are invested in, if they lose that or there is a threat of losing that, then suddenly in one's mind, you logically deduce it's not worth living. Something as simple as people fail 10th standard exams, children, and they commit suicide because they are made to feel that if you cannot pass 10th standard examination, it's not worth living. So essentially, the mechanics of suicide is this, that what you consider as life is a few things that you value. And when those things are either gone or threaten to go, then there is a tendency to think that, what is the point of my life? Why should I live? So this is a very fundamental aspect that I'm speaking about, which a society needs to address. In this culture, we have always looked at it this way, that one's human experience should not be mortgaged to what we have gathered, whether it is money, wealth, family, relationships, whatever else. Human experience should be related to the fundamental aspect of life. This is what spiritual process means. People think, unfortunately, there is a bad misunderstanding in terms of spirituality means looking up or looking down or something like this. No. Spirituality means looking at your life in the most profound way possible. So if you look at and identify your life with surface aspects of life, like what we possess in terms of things and people, then when those things are threatened, we start thinking it's not worth living. And if we live an active life, always these things will be threatened, one way or the other. This is the nature of life. So, to create a culture, to create a society, to create individual human beings where the highest value is life and the source of life, which is embedded or invested in us, if you move in that direction, then there will be no room in the psychological space to think whether it's worth living or not. Because right now, we have invested in the few things that we gather. Now, when those things are in jeopardy, then suddenly we start thinking whether it's worthwhile or not. So this is a complete shift that needs to happen in a society. It should be easier to do this in India than anywhere else, because there is a whole cultural background to this as to how the most important and the core element of your life is life and its source, both invested within you, not the other things that you gather. Other things that you gather are here for your use, but they are not the basis of your life, they are not the fundamental identities of your life. This needs to happen, but this is a long-term thing. For immediate purposes, if we bring a simple practice in people's lives, which stabilizes their body, which stabilizes their chemistry, which stabilizes their energetic system, these things will not happen. As the statistics say, and I know from my experience of so many millions of people that I have met, the suicidal thoughts, unfortunately, happen in many people. Fortunately, all of them do not commit suicide. They don't act, not because they don't have good enough reason, they have reason, but they don't have the courage, fortunately. The flesh is weak, they cannot take that step, but the thoughts are happening. Too many people are thinking this. They are thinking this because they're wrongly identified with small things. The moment that comes to a threat, you think it's not worth living. So this has to shift on one level. For this, one simple thing is to bring a chemical balance so that it doesn't fluctuate. Right now, the entire modern world is trying to bring psychological balance just by thinking right, by feeling right, by talking to somebody. All this is fine on the surface, but the most important thing is every thought, every emotion, every human experience of pain, pleasure, joy, misery, agony, ecstasy, all of these have a chemical basis to it. So the entire yogic system is oriented towards this, that you bring a chemical balance within the system, that you have a chemistry of joyfulness. When you are like this, the idea or the thought of suicide or in some way damaging life, either yours or somebody else's, will not arise within you because there is a certain level of pleasantness which is chemically induced. When I say chemically induced, not from outside, but this is the most complex chemical factory on the planet. If you manage it well, it will create the kind of chemistry that you want. If you do not manage it well, then it is creating a chemistry which is against yourself. This management of chemistry involves various aspects, which includes lifestyles, physical postures, food that we consume, what kind of sounds that we produce, language, many aspects are there. Yoga considers all these things to bring a chemical balance within you so that your psychological structure works for you, never against you. Whether it is simple misery or frustration or depression or any kind of pain that you cause for yourself, essentially is a case of your intelligence turning against you. Suicide is the worst manifestation of that.
Can I now invite Mr. Mukul Goel, DGP Uttar Pradesh, for his question? Thank you.
Namaskaram.
Mr. Mukul Goel, please.
Namaskaram, Sadhguruji. I had the good fortune.
The audio is very low, if you can, please, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, if it's a little louder, it would be better. Can we raise it here? Yes.
Namaskar, Sadhguru.
Namaskar.
I had the good fortune of attending one of the inner engineering programs at your place when I was in the BSF 3 years back. Now I'm back to the state of UP, which is one of the largest forces in the country. My question to you is simple, that how do we provide emotional support to the policemen who are working under extremely stressful environment?
I have personally experienced this in being in contact with some of the forces in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and a few other states. What I see is in the country, when police are deployed for certain special purposes like VIP, security or general management of events and stuff, there is no real arrangement of proper food or toilets or change rooms. Especially these days, there are women policemen, unfortunately even for them, there is no organized approach towards this. I know in a country like India, it's very hard to provide this wherever you put them, because wherever it's needed in any part of the state or country, especially in remote places, when you put them, there is no means to arrange, I understand that. But unfortunately, this drives to a large amount of frustration in some of the police personnel that I've met. That is, I'm talking about ordinary constable who is on the ground. Sometimes he's standing there for 12 hours, 14 hours, and neither food nor anything has been given. Sometimes they will ask people to provide this, sometimes they'll try to force hotels to provide this, simply because it is a general condition of the nation that we are not able to provide these things for everybody on the street. So having said that, so this can lead to a lot of stress, and many times they're suddenly deployed and they're remaining in the same clothes for 3 days, 4 days. I've had policemen coming and sharing such things with me. So how to change this, we need to look at it. One simple thing is, in all the big cities and towns, if… I don't know if this is possible, but I'm suggesting that at least if some kind of accommodation, like a dorm or a barrack kind of accommodation with toilets, showers and other things are ready, that different forces can use when they're deployed in those regions, would be a good starting point. I know it's a huge investment and many things are involved in this, but I think we should move, especially those areas where they are frequently deployed, because most of this police personnel just go from anywhere to anywhere. For example, sometimes even with me for security, they're just traveling a long distance. The moment I get to the destination, I have a bathroom, I have food, I have everything, but they just don't even wait, they just turn back and we don't know where they're going. Many times I'm asking, where are you eating, what is happening? But it's difficult to provide, I understand, but there must be some kind of serious thought about building infrastructure so that deployed policemen are not just left on the street to do their duty endlessly, but some kind of rest and recuperation process is there. That is one aspect of it. Another thing is, when police are deployed, if when there is no guarantee when they will go home. And today everybody has cell phones. I heard from many of them, I've personally spoken to many of them. You were in BSF and there also this issue. The families are calling them again and again. So these are all young men who have a certain level of emotion to their wives and children and whatever. And when they call them and tell them their daily problems, what they're going through, issues in the family and things like that, and some of them threatening they will leave them and whatever else. So this kind of drives them to the wall, because they cannot disobey the orders and go and attend to their family. At the same time, family is in contact. Probably if they were not in contact, then they wouldn't know and family would settle its own issues. So there are many aspects to it, which I feel practically attending to all of them is extremely difficult. So I would say the best possible thing that you can do is that periodically they have, let us say at least twice a year, they have a week-long some kind of process with which they can settle themselves, bring themselves to a certain level of balance to handle these stressful situations, rather than trying to fix everything, because fixing everything is never going to happen and it's a long-term process even if you want to fix some things. But everything will never be fixed, we know that. So, fixing the individual human being is the best thing we can do, rather than trying to fix everything, because whatever you fix, there'll always be some other reason why. Because in the most affluent countries, people are killing themselves. That is happening, there are quite bad statistics even in United States of policemen shooting themselves, doctors killing themselves, even though there is affluence and comfort and well-being. So, that cannot be the only reason why this is happening. Fundamentally, as I said earlier, it is human mind which is beginning to work against us, which causes stress, which causes misery, which causes frustration, depression, and when it goes beyond, it drives you towards suicide. So that is what we need to attend to, large scale for not only for the forces, for the general public and the whole country and the world.
Thank you, Sadhguru ji. Can I now request Mr. Sunil Kumar Singh, DG Prisons and Correctional Services, Tamil Nadu, to unmute himself and post the question that he has in his mind. Sunil, over to you.
Namaskaram, Sadhguru.
Namaskaram, Sunil.
Being in Tamil Nadu, I had several opportunity to visit Isha Yoga Center and interact with Sadhguru. In between first wave and second wave of COVID, also I attended inner engineering program at Isha Yoga Center. And Isha Yoga Center was very helpful in organizing online yoga classes for prison inmates during the COVID when they were not permitted to meet their relatives and friends. Now, Sadhguru, the people who break the law of the land, they land into prisons. Obviously, their capacity is extraordinary, but the mindset disturbed, unstable, and imbalanced. They are considered dangerous for society, and that's why they are confined into prisons depending upon their nature of offense or sentence by the court of law. The responsibility of the Department of Prisons and Correctional Services is to keep these difficult inmates disciplined, safe, healthy, and transform them as responsible, law-abiding citizens so that they should be able to join the society smoothly after their release from prisons. However, a few inmates lead to serious depression and take extreme step of committing suicide. And I should say that this also they plan very meticulously, because in prisons we take utmost care that they should not find such opportunity or infrastructure or materials which can be used for suicide. I have studied some 5 years data of NCRB on suicides in Indian prisons, and I found mostly the suicides have been committed by hanging. Rope is not available inside prisons. They have devised different type of ways to collect something and use as a rope. Even I have seen incidents of suicide inside mental hospital where the inmates have been sent for treatment. So I should say that they have got extraordinary courage, capacity, and meticulous planning to commit even suicide. The question is how to change mindset of such difficult prisoners and how to make them understand the value of life. Do you have any structured program or any such program like a type of meditation or a set of yoga or anything can be evolved so that these type of inmates can understand value of life and we can ensure their safety and transformation as responsible citizens of the society after their release. Thank you, sir.
As you know that for over 22 or 23 years, we've been running a structured program in prisons of Tamil Nadu and a few prisons in United States. First few programs I personally conducted in Coimbatore Central Prison, which had an immense impact on the prisoners, and since then our teachers have been teaching these programs. And I think in recent times it's slowed down a little bit for a variety of reasons, and this is why we've gone online. The important thing is, see, in my mind, a human being is a human being. They may be in the prison, they may be in the palace, they may be wherever. Essentially, for every one of them, their life is valuable. How they conduct this life, unfortunately, depends upon variety of things. One thing is the society in which they live, how they are nurtured, their childhood, and the laws of the land themselves many times can lead to such frustration in people that they will do certain things. And it's very difficult to do what individual people think is justice to every citizen in the country or on the planet. It's extremely difficult to render that. If you have two children at home, one will feel that you are not being fair to them. So, it is extremely difficult to bring this. This is why it is very important that early on, children must get into something about managing this life. Unfortunately, our education system has gone in a direction where, and the social situation has gone in a direction that by possessing a few things, everything will be okay. Either it is knowledge or wealth or money or things or people. If you have this and this, your life is going to be good. This is an American dream, I understand. But unfortunately, it is penetrated into every society and particularly India, it is happening. This is not the way we cultivated this culture for a long time. Here, we knew whatever you have, whatever you possess, today you can possess, tomorrow you can be dispossessed. But the most important thing is you keeping yourself the way you want yourself to be. This is Swadharma, how you should be. This you determine and make that the most important aspect of your life. All other things that you possess can always be dispossessed of the same things. So, this culture is gone, but when you have people in the prison, in a way they're a captive audience. I'm sorry I'm using that word. But they're a captive audience. I think it's the best place. As you… now we don't call them prisons anymore, they're correctional centers, and this correction can happen. Is everybody willing? Whether he is willing or not willing, if they are made to encourage to do certain things with the necessary practices, once a certain equanimity and balance arises within them, this will not be so, but at the same time, tending to these prisoners to that extent, who is willing to dedicate themselves, who is willing to spend that much time. We have done our bit in the last 23 years, I think, more than 23 years, I think 23, 24 years, we have sustained these programs. If you allow us, we will do a more active process. Let this pandemic settle down a little bit. Once that happens, we are willing to do this for you, a structured program that will work well. We can do it across the country if it is necessary. It is just that, I remember about 24 years ago, I was… I was in that ladies' club just outside the prison, and I did not know it is a prison. So we were in there and I looked at this tall wall and asked, what is this? Is there a fortress here? They said, no, it's the jail in the heart of Coimbatore city. It's only then I realized the main street in Coimbatore is called the jail street or the jail road as it is known. Then I said, can I go there and see who is there, what kind of people are there, I would like to see them. Then I met the superintendent and believe me, it took me nearly 2 years to get in. I was not qualified in some way. It took me nearly 2 years to get in and lot of convincing, and then they allowed me to teach a 10-day program there for one ward of about 220 prisoners. And it was an eye-opener for everyone, and they responded so phenomenally. And as you should know, that they have written over 3,000 poems, fantastic poems they have written. Most of them are illiterate or just, school dropouts, but they all wrote poems. And one I remember, I think he was executed later on. His name was Shanmugam. He had come to He was in the prison for 3 murders in the courthouse. So, when he started meditating, he wrote a poem saying that every day when the cell door closed in the evening, I thought this is my grave, but now I close my eyes and this has become my Bodhi tree. In this vein, he wrote a poem. And he was completely transformed after a few years. I think he had to go to the gallows. But see, the law of the land is there to control. The law of the land cannot transform. It will only happen by society engaging strongly, that transformation will happen. We also brought all the Coimbatore industry and business to prison one day to promise the prisoners that when you come out, if you are willing to give up your crime profession or attitude or whatever that was, we are willing to give you a job. So I brought all the industry and businesses, large businesses to the prison. They all came into the prison, all the business leaders, and promised that if you come out and you will maintain a crime-free attitude within you, we will give you proper jobs and you can go back to proper life. So there were many things done, but I'm saying it's never enough because of what is needed and how difficult it is to go through these processes. Every day, even in United States, when we started working in the correctional centers, everyday entry sometimes would take 2 to 3 hours just entering, because every officer has his own idea what it is. And then I saw there was a huge competition between religious groups. Based on that, they thought we were another new religion and trying to block us at various levels. In the security process, from one segment to another segment, in the in-between segment, I've been locked for about 1.5 hours. This gate opened, I went in, and the next gate doesn't open because that officer doesn't think these things are needed. So this happens in many ways. If the prison systems really think through this, if you want me to participate, we can come, sit down and see how this can happen and what kind of prisoners we can target so that at least even if there are people who are unwilling, you can leave them out and the rest of them you can work on, because every human being is willing towards his well-being. It's just that you have to present it the way he understands. That is the only issue. We are willing to do that with you.
Thank you, Sadhguru ji. Thank you very much. Now, may I now call upon Shri Mithilesh Kumar, IG Prisons Bihar, to unmute himself and pose his question for the day for the Honorable Sadhguru.
Namaskaram, Sadhguru.
Namaskaram.
Sir, my question have 2 parts and 1 request. Question is like, do you think some people or some type of people have more vulnerable? Are they more prone to do suicide, or this prison environment is adding to this vulnerability? And the second one is regarding, apart from this official or structural program, what we should do as a person or as a citizen, because we are doing in many capacities, we are working all the time. So as a person in a society as a whole, what we should do for these prisoners as well as the society at large. And sir, my request is regarding, I think my request is to extend this program of Isha Foundation to other prisons in other states also, sir. Thank you, sir. Namaskaram.
If that can be facilitated, if there's a official way to approach that, if you tell us, we will see how to process that. About what can we do in the prison, I feel bringing in a lot of cultural aspects, like bringing in folk music, that all prisoners, we can do this to some extent, maybe not in all the languages, but we can. That a simple thing is, let's say 3 songs in every state which is very earthy and related with that culture, folk music, they learn to beat a drum and sing. Like this, if you bring simple thing like singing a song can avoid a suicide, I'm telling you. Because suicide happens only in certain people's life or in death. It is a well thought out process. For most others, it is at that moment when you feel worthless and life is useless and it's not worth living, that kind of thought and emotion strongly comes into human mind for a few minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes or 20 minutes. In that moment, if they take action, it will just happen to just about anybody, because I know from my experience of people, well-to-do people, successful people, all of them have had suicidal thoughts. Fortunately, they did not act upon it. But when you're in prison, staring at a wall and looking at a locked door from outside, definitely those thoughts can come and very easily they can find expression. And this is the reality of life. Because prison is not… I'm sorry I'm saying this, I know you manage them, however well you manage them. Prison is not a nice place for a human being to be, for any human being. Unfortunately, it's become necessary because of certain human beings have taken to certain type of attitudes and actions to protect the larger society. There is a prison. But it is never fair to that individual person to be locked up in a prison. If there was there was a time when criminals from England were left in Australia and they made their own nation. I wish there were more planets where you could leave them and they can make their own world the way they want it. But now unfortunately there is no such thing in this small world with the population that we have. To protect the more vulnerable population, you have to have a prison. That has become a necessity in our present conditions. But is it good for any human being? No, it is not good for any human being. So naturally, they being frustrated, they being feeling cornered, either they want to kill themselves or kill somebody else, these thoughts constantly flowing in their minds are there. But I feel with a certain amount of cultural aspects, music, drama, dance, yoga, various aspects if we bring into the prison, I feel this suicide as a problem could be significantly brought down, because I see the percentage of suicide in the prisons across the world is way higher than the outside society. So obviously, there is more reason for them to kill themselves. Having said that, I feel there are other situations also where among prisoners, particularly I noticed this in United States, different types of groups, or you want to call them groups or gangs or associations within the prison dominate other prisoners. There is all kinds of abuse, especially for women prisoners and also for male prisoners. There is a large-scale sexual abuse. There is various kinds of other things that they have to do menial things for these people who are dominant. It may not be so much so in the Indian prison, but within a small society this can easily happen. So, if those things can be reasonably eliminated, many who are being oppressed within the prison atmosphere, within that population, the underdogs who may be the highest number of suicide candidates could be avoided to some extent. I do not know, I did not see that in the Coimbatore prison that I was there. Coimbatore and Tiruchinappalli prisons, I personally worked there, and I did not see such a kind of gang dominations, but I don't know how it is in the rest of the prisons in other parts of the country. But if there is such a thing, I think it is the business of the law to break those dominance and ensure that the weaker prisoners are not exploited by the stronger ones or the ones who have formed these strong associations.
Mr. Mitesh, what was your personal request? I'm sorry I couldn't log in. What
Sir,
was
the
your…
request, sir, request was regarding to extend the program of Isha Foundation to others prisons, other jails also. Like in, sir has done program in Chennai prisons or Tamil Nadu prisons. So we can, already Sadhguru has said to send official request, definitely we will do. And we want to extend this activities to reform the prisoners as well as to reduce this suicide rate, increase their happiness, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I momentarily lost you, so I thought I'll catch up with you on that issue. Finally, I'll call on Mr. G. Vajavanti, Director Prosecution, Telangana. But before, ma'am, I owe you an unconditional apology because the standard paradigm and protocol is ladies first. But I chose to put you at the last because I find that you have the most impressive array of questions for the Venerable Sadhguru. So I deliberately kept you at the last, and I'm looking forward to the next 10, 15 odd minutes of very interesting question and answer with Sadhguruji. Over to you, ma'am.
Lawyers are
Thank
better
you.
at questions than the policemen.
Even in answering and arguing of
You just added to what I had to say.
Namaskar, Mandi.
Namaskaram, Sadhguru. It's my good evening, one and all. It's my pleasure to be with you to participate in
శుభాకాంక్షలు. ఈరోజు మీకు శుభాకాంక్షలు.
Vinayaka Chavati Subhakankshalu. Vinayaka Chavati Subhakankshalu. Is it audible, sir?
Yes, ma, it is. Yes, it is.
Sir, yeah. Yeah, really. Namaskaram, Sadhguru. And your work such as inner engineering, youth and truth, and rally for rivers, and all these initiatives are really inspiring. And I'm very fortunate today to have this opportunity provided by CAPT Bhopal. I thank the CAPT Bhopal authorities for providing this opportunity, because I'm an ardent follower of Sadhguruji, and every day I follow these sayings and lectures. So I follow them in my day-to-day life and my office also. So I am the Director of Prosecutions, Telangana. I'm heading this institution for the last 5-6 years. We have many women officers, Sadhguruji, and they work at distant places. And we are like a very important cog in the wheel of criminal justice system. We have to liaison between the police as well as the judiciary, and as well as the litigant public. So we have to take care of all these things. And at the same time, all the officers also, they get frustrated, especially women officers. They have to work in court with police, with judiciary and everything. So they are unable to withstand the pressure. And with regard to legal aspects also, Guruji, my question is, suicide is a psychiatric problem and not a manifestation of criminal instinct. It is envisaged under Mental Health Act 2017, whereas attempt to commit suicide is a penal law. On contrary, law provides a presumption that a person who attempts suicide shall be presumed to have severe stress and shall not be tried and punished under IPC. On the other hand, society's stigmatic view about depressed individuals is a cause of concern. Efficiency of helpline for deprived is poor. Among these diversities, Sadhguruji, what is the right solution for the problem from a humanitarian angle, where the operation of law is minimal?
I know some time ago there were laws that you could be punished for attempted suicide. Now fortunately that's been taken away because that's a double punishment. So it's not audible, ma, for you? Please…
Not able to.
Can you hear me, ma?
Yes. Yes.
A little bit.
Ji,
Yes,
loud and clear,
yes, yes.
loud and clear.
I'm able to hear.
Yep. So, see, human condition is such that for a variety of reasons, people will feel hopeless. It could be small things, it could be big things. We may think sometimes it's a ridiculous thing to take one's life, but in that person's mind at that moment, what you or me may think is ridiculous or very unimportant, in that person's mind it rules in such a way that, like if a child, is deprived of a toy, he's almost ready to kill himself. He may not do it, he may not know that it is a possibility, but the fury with which he goes, it's almost like that, because if you're dispossessed of something that you think is everything for you, suddenly you feel hopeless. So when you feel hopeless, there are two ways. Actually, in this culture, this has been nurtured always, but unfortunately in the last probably 1 or 2 generations, we have broken it in a very bad way. When you become hopeless, either you can become suicidal or you can become spiritual. Well, this may be a controversial thing to say, but suicide means in some way you want to end your misery. Spirituality also means in a scientific way you want to end your misery for good. It's the same thing, because suicide is not about against life. Suicide is unable to bear the misery, unable to bear the suffering that one is going through. So, please, yeah, that belt is coming in the camera, you must take care. Unable to bear the suffering, you're against misery. So if you find a structured way out of your misery, that is called as spirituality. If you find a destructive way of coming out of that misery, that is called as suicide. So, it is important that beyond religion, beyond likes and dislikes, beyond what you're identified with and not, approaching human well-being in a scientific manner has become very important. Because religious ideas that if you die here, you will go to another place which is better than this place is a very bad idea and encourages suicide on various levels. That if there is a better place, I would rather go there than be here because right now everything has turned against me. So, spiritual process is that better place is within you, not somewhere else. So, it is a scientific and structured solution for ending misery, because suicide is not about ending life. Suicide is about ending misery.
People say that those who are spiritually strong are less prone to these tendencies, Guruji.
Not less prone, they're not prone. As I said, if you have ended your misery within yourself, because all human experience comes from within you. Joy and misery both comes from within you. If you have understood human experience is caused from within you, and you have also figured out how to cause the best experience for yourself, you're not less prone towards suicide, you're simply not prone towards such a thing, because as I said, and I insist, suicide is not about ending life. Suicide is about ending misery.
Misery. My another question, Guruji, when Gita says, Jatasya Maranam Dhruvam, can it be considered that suicide is the karma that had led to final journey as decided at the time of birth?
If you can explain
Then
that
whether
to
it
say no,
becomes
because
sin
I
or
have not read all the scriptures, you're the… What does the translation mean? మీరు తెలుగులో చెప్పాలి లేకుంటే ఇంగ్లీష్లో చెప్పాలి.
Jatasya Maranam Dhruvam, that's what Hindu… Death is inevitable and it is written at the time of birth itself.
Yes, see, for all life, the nature of life is, it is on a time leash. If one forgets that, they will live a foolish life. Because right now this is the basis of variety of foolishness that we are doing, variety of crimes, variety of horrible things that our human beings are doing is, most people are not conscious that I will die one day. They think death happens to other people. It doesn't happen to me. No, you and me will die. So this is not about suicide, it is about the natural process of life. Let me tell you, can I tell you a simple story, Ma? This happened in Andhra Pradesh. So there was a rich man who built a big house for himself, And as the tradition goes, when you build a house, you want your house to be blessed by a sage or a saint or a yogi or somebody who has some grace. So they invited a yogi. They welcomed him like a king, not like a yogi. Fed him well, they did everything. And the time for blessing came, so husband and wife came and bowed down to the yogi and asked him to bless them. So the yogi raised his hands and said, "First let your father die, then you die, and then your children die." They said, "Emra, what would you say, my Telugu? You know what all they will say." So they said, "What kind of nonsense is this? We treated you like a king, we fed you well, everything, and now when we ask for blessing, you say first father die, then I die, then my children die." The yogi was surprised, "What did I say wrong? This is the nature of life. First your father should die, then you should die, then your children should die. If you die before your father, that is not a good thing. If your children die before you, that is not at all a good thing. Because natural order of life is like this. This is how it should happen. If it happens that way, everything is right with your life. So, death is inevitable because that is the nature of life. Life is a cycle. When it completes its cycle, it gets over. And if we are consciously aware of it all the time, that death is the only inevitable thing in our life. You may get qualified, not get qualified, you may win a case, not win a case, you may get married, not get married, you may have children, not have children, but we shall all die, 100%. We can kick the can by doing little yoga, you can postpone it a little bit, but nobody is going to avoid it, there is no such thing. So that statement should not be understood as suicidal, that is a statement to make you conscious that you have a limited amount of time. When you have a limited amount of time, obviously any intelligent human being will do what matters to them most. As we are talking, now it is 4:57, that means for all of us, for yourself, for me and all the police officers, we are 57 minutes closer to our grave. That's what it means. Let's try to postpone it a little bit, but we cannot avoid it.
Please, Guruji. And finally, Guruji, how to inculcate art of living among younger generations to overcome the life struggle in this mundane world?
See, living is not necessarily an art. Life is happening as a phenomena. You either ride the phenomena or you don't. There are many rhythms and this country is named as Bharata because bhava, raga and thala. Bhava means how we experience things. Raga is already set by creation. It's not your business. Raga is set. Now if you find the right tala, then your life will be a dance, a great exuberance and a wonderful experience. If you don't find the tala, then you see life crushes you. So this is a science. I would say this is a science because if you observe, you will see every phenomena has a certain process. The more you figure it out, the better you live. So, it is very important that we do not… See, this is the problem in the world. We've been trying to handle human well-being through religion, saying that everything will be okay because somebody up there will take care of you. After that, we've been trying to handle well-being through philosophies, ideologies, artistic ways, cultures. It's not worked. We must understand that today we address every issue, small things and big things. You want to grow a garden, there is a garden science, how to have the best garden. So when this is so, how to be the best possible life that you can be, there is a science and there is a technology. That is what we are offering to the world as inner engineering, that it's the technologies of well-being.
Please, Guruji. And what should
Thank-
be the approach of the council? Time is over.
I told you my time gets over for all of us.
Thank you, Sadhguru ji. And before I invite my director, CAPT Bhopal, to propose the vote of thanks, sir, with your one, if I can take a minute from you, I'm tempted because this is the World Suicide Prevention Day. I'm tempted to allude to Durkheim in his voluminous work on suicides, and where he has been successful in establishing a social fact that there are specific social phenomena which govern individual phenomena. And another eminent social scientist, Raymond Aron, then comments on him saying that the most impressive, and I'm quoting this, most impressive social and most eloquent example is that of this social forces which drive individuals to their deaths, each believing that he's obeying only himself. So with that, we come to the end of this session. Wonderful in conversation with none other than Sadhguru. Can I now…
Can I say something, sir?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
You quoted all these Western scientists who study social phenomena, but it would be much better if you look at life from scientists who looked at the inner phenomena of the human mechanism. You should have quoted Gautama, the Buddha, the Agastya Muni, Adi Yogi, because they have looked at the life process in a way that's never been looked at in the world anywhere else. Social phenomena is a consequence. We are studying the consequence as a symptom, but there is an inner phenomena called life. If you look at this, solutions are much simpler.
Right. Grateful, sir. Grateful for that summation. Thank you so much, sir. Pawan, can I hand it over to you now?
Thank you so much, sir. I am privileged and honored to offer this vote of thanks. First and foremost, we are grateful to Sadhguru ji for being able to spare his precious time out of his busy schedule to enlighten us on the topic of importance. Thank you, Sadhguru ji, for sharing words of wisdom and enlightening us. As you rightly said, fixing everything will never happen. But fixing oneself once in a while is my takeaway of this afternoon's conversation. And I guess it should be for others also. I guess Shankaran Pillai gets himself fixed up once in a while, once in a few weeks. So that is how he is. My sincere thanks to all the senior officers, Shri Kuldeep Singh, Director General, Central Reserve Police Force, Shri Mukul Goyal, DGP Uttar Pradesh, Shri Sunil Kumar Singh, DG Prisons and Correctional Services, DG BPR&D Balaji Srivastav sir, Mithilesh Mishra, IS, IG Prisons Bihar, and Mrs. G. Vajayanti Panduranga Reddy, Director Prosecution and Legal Advisor to the DGP and CID of Telangana, for volunteering to be in conversation with Sadhguru today. I would also like to convey my sincere thanks again to DGBPR&D, Shri Balaji Srivastav, for agreeing to moderate the program for the benefit of all. I would also like to thank technology for archiving this conversation for posterity. I would not call this program a success without active participation of all the audience, joined in thousands, sitting and watching this program together in an auditorium or a classroom, from all forces, the Central Armed Police Forces of the states, the Prosecution Department and the Jail Department. Finally, thanks to Team Isha Foundation and Team CAPT for ironing out the hurdles and making this online program happen. Thank you, Sadhguruji. Thank you all. Namaskaram. Namaskaram all. Jai Hind.
Kardam.